You are come to hear a little bit about not so much what Ed and Eddie did, but what God is doing through them. And so it is good to have you back. It's good to hear this story. And 10 days they were gone and blessed people in Panama, but more happened than that. But I'm going to let you go with it here. So it's exciting. I want to tell it because I'm excited. So so let's pray, shall we? Father in heaven, we are so blessed that we can be used by you. That Ed and Eddie were able to go and make a difference for others, make a difference for your kingdom, to give the third angel's message, to be the remnant about the mission that we have been given as your last day church. We ask that you will be with us tonight. May your Spirit be here in abundance, that all of us may catch the flames of the Holy Spirit burning in our hearts, that we too might take this message to the world. In Jesus' name, amen.
Good evening, everybody. First and foremost, I want to apologize. As you can see, there's only one Ed here. I'm missing my other half. He is home with a very bad migraine. We were hoping he feels better. So you guys are stuck with me. So I want to thank you all for giving me this opportunity. This came to be from support, not just from all of you guys as my family here at this church, but this, if we can all remember, came from one lady going online and saying, "What's your passport number?" And next thing you know, I'm signed up. So thank you to my wife for signing me up, and Eddie, because that's kind of how this happened. Out of surprise, you're going. So again, some of the greatest things, I think, come without being planned. And for me, this definitely was one of those. I know I was sharing some of the stories a little bit ago. Most of you guys talked to me before I left. Most of you guys said, "You're going to be a blessing. You're going to help people. The people in Panama are going to be blessed." What I wasn't ready, and I still don't understand, is how much of a blessing they were to me. How much of a blessing they were to my son. At 16, he was able to do something that I wish I could have done at 16. But most of all, I'm glad that I was able to experience that with him, one-on-one, to be an experience of a father and son. 10 days may not be a lot. 10 days may be a lot. Who knows? It depends how you look at it. But 10 days with my son, without interruption, 10 days with my son, to really sit down and talk. Good things, bad things. To decipher whatever's going on around us. I can't put a price on that. He's, Lord willing, going to go to college here soon. He may leave and go away. He may stay home. But I know I got those 10 days with him. To be able to just bond. Not just as a father and son, but bond as children of Christ. To be able to share that experience. And again, part of all that includes a lot of you guys as well. Prayers and many, many supports from a lot of you guys. A lot of people in my family, friends that are not here today, that gave us that encouragement and support for Eddie and I to both make it over there. So, as you guys know, Panama was the place. I think Eddie wasn't quite as nervous as I was. I should be okay. The Lord's blessed me to travel around the world, sometimes in capacities of not the greatest, especially when I was in the military, like you guys, some of you guys know. But I was nervous, just because this time around, I wasn't going to do fun things that I planned. I was going to do God's work. And for me, this was something new. So off I go, and I know we look happy, but I was very, very nervous. Getting on that airplane, I always tell Eddie, I love to fly, but in reality, once I'm in the plane, I'm always like, oh, I hope everything's okay. So, off we went, heading to Panama. It ended up being a group of 12 of us that got there from Quiet Hour. So it wasn't a very, very large group. And I just thought this was the funniest thing, because it says, welcome to Panama. But right on it says, for sale. So I was like, oh, that's just hilarious. But Panama, I've always been to Panama. Every time I go to Ecuador, I go right through Panama. We fly Copa Airlines, and the hub is in Panama City. So we're always going to Panama, but I've never gone out of the airport. In 30 years we've lived in this country. We've flown to Ecuador, stopped in Panama, but this was the first time I ever got out of the airport. So it was very nice, very beautiful, and very hot. And not everybody has air conditioning. So be happy. We are blessed with air conditioning. A lot of people there, just a fan, and all you're getting is just hot air blown at you. But it was a very beautiful place. It reminded me a lot of Ecuador. And so if you guys, have ever traveled South America, Central America, a lot of the places look similar. So for me, it reminded me a lot of home, a lot of Ecuador. A lot of mountains everywhere, a lot of green everywhere, which for us, we don't get to see a lot of that necessarily here, especially if you're in Orlando or if you live in the city per se. But we landed in Panama City. From there, we traveled about an hour and a half from there to a small town called La Chorrera. And this was actually my view from the hotel, which was very, very nice. We stayed in a nice hotel in a very small town. Very loud town for being a small place. 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning, a very small little building off to the side over there. There was a line of people every morning waiting to get picked up for work. Not that they had a job, waiting to see if anybody needed help for the day and would come by and pick them up. So it was lines around the building. And I always thought, I don't know, you think of so many things until I finally asked somebody, hey, what's going on over there? Every morning there's just lines of people. And then they explained to me, oh yeah, there's people that need work. That's where they all gather every day, every morning. Before the sun's out, that's where they go and wait. If companies or contractors or anybody needs somebody, they too know that's where you go. And there's people there you can pick up for work. So that was interesting. For me, that was very interesting. Because, again, it's not something we are used to here. First day there, we were able to go to the conference building there. We met the president of the conference, which it so happened that a couple of days before we got there, they were voting for new president and everything, and the president that was there actually got voted back in and elected again. So that was, they were all very excited. Very, very nice guy. We got to meet everybody at the conference, every elder that was there, all the president, the treasurer, because they knew we were coming. They were the ones that were setting everything up for us. So it was really nice to meet everybody and get to know them. Our first day there was getting things ready. And Eddie got to meet some awesome people. And as we go further, we'll get to know who they are. But they were getting everything ready for children's ministry. Quiet Hour send just about everybody that traveled down there a piece of luggage full of stuff for us to take down there for them, which I thought was nice. I mean, at least for Eddie and I, the airline we were with allowed us 2 pieces of luggage and a carry-on. I don't need 2 pieces of luggage and a carry-on for 10 days worth of clothing for me. So it helped them a lot as well to be able to take that. We did get stopped in the airport though. And they pulled Eddie and I off to the side, and we need to open your bag. There's all kinds of metal in there. We're like, it's glasses. But they wanted to check, and apparently I wasn't the only one. Everybody that was bringing glasses got pulled over and stopped, and we had to check bags. But they gave us a letter from Quiet Hour so we can share with them and let them know what this is all about. And by the time we got there, a few of the other team members had already arrived earlier. So the sergeant from their security team is like, oh, he's one of the people. They're here to help with the clinic. It's okay, they can go. So it helped to make the process a little quicker. But we got to meet everybody that very first day. They were getting everything ready for children's ministry, cutting everything out, setting pamphlets. We got broken into 3 different sites. Like I said, the group was small. It was only 12 of us. In reality, they wanted to set up 4 sites. But because there was only 12, they only set up 3 sites. The 4th site, they did open, but it was mainly done by one of the pastors there from Panama. They're the ones that handled that extra site in doing the meetings and everything else. The small little town of La Chorrera had their own Seventh-day Adventist church. Really, we passed through it most of the time. We didn't get the opportunity to actually go and visit it. We really wanted to, but we were so busy getting to our sites every day that we just didn't have the time to stop and visit. But every morning and every afternoon we'd come back, we'd go by our church in the local town. One of the sites was the site of Bethel. That was the site that I was at, that I was assigned. Now, as you guys know, and I have shared with you guys, I've never prayed or preached a day in my life. Right? So, here I go to this church, and the decision was made that first day that we got there that they would give me this site. Because, in another picture, you're going to see Pastor Luis. He is the one in charge of evangelism and everything. And I was sharing with him, hey, I'm a little nervous. I've never done this before. So he's like, it's okay. I got the perfect site for you. So I was like, oh, okay. So we got there, and his vision of the perfect site for me was the biggest church they had. So I looked at him once. He said, no, that's the perfect one for you. It's the biggest church we got. I said, well, I've never done this before, and you're giving me the biggest church you have? He says, no, there's a reason why. He's like, look, the church is the biggest church we have, but everything's already set. It's organized. It has a congregation. They've been working on bringing people, and you have a lot of people to help you. Versus the other 2 sites that were just getting started. One of the other sites wasn't even at a church. It was at a school, open gym, podium. You're going to see a picture. It was in the open. He says, that's harder to do and go and preach there than it is here. So I was like, okay, well, you know about this, I don't. So, hey, this is where I was. The biggest church they had. So why not put the new guy there? As you can see, the church itself is, like I said, no AC, right? So there's stand-up fans all along the side, just blowing the hot air in. And at the very front, you got the podium, which is that one there, which I thought was amazing. It was beautiful. Hand-carved by one of the church members, actually, and presented to the church when they had opened that building. It was beautiful, beautiful puppet, handmade. So I was like, ooh, I got to take a picture of that. Pastor Luis is the one in the blue. The gentleman in the middle is Warren. So here's where it started for me. Remember I shared with you guys before I left of how I always said, I can do that, and next thing you know, I'm preaching? All right. When Quiet Hour called me and said, can you preach? And I said, okay, let me think about this. Let me pray about it. Let me talk to my wife, my son, and all this. And once I said, okay, I called him back and said, okay, I'll do this. God is calling me to do this. It's got to be for a reason. If I say no, I can't do that. I can't say no. But my one condition to Quiet Hour was, I will do it if you give me an interpreter. So like many of you guys are probably thinking, wait a minute, but you know Spanish. It's the same question that Georgia from Quiet Hour said, okay, well, you know Spanish. I said, well, yes. So you send me the material in Spanish, and you send me the material in English. I've looked at it. I said, however, some of those words in Spanish, I don't know. Some of those words in Spanish, I can't even pronounce right. I said, and if I'm going to do this, and I'm going to share God's word, I need to know that I'm doing it right. Because if I do it in Spanish and I mispronounce something or say something incorrectly and then somebody doesn't get the message because I messed up, I'm going to feel horrible about it. So I will do this if you guys give me an interpreter. Can I have one? She said, okay, no problem. So when I got to Panama on the previous pictures, that very first day is when all the interpreters came. And the conference had the interpreters, and, and this guy, he's going to go to this side, and here's your interpreter, and this lady, you're going to go to this side, and here's your interpreter, and Eddie, this is going to be your side. And I'm like, okay, where's my interpreter? Oh, you need one? They didn't even get the message that I needed an interpreter. And like most of us, well, wait, you speak Spanish. So I had to explain everything again. So off they went to try and find me an interpreter, and who did they find but Mr. Warren? Now, I know I was sharing with the pastor here a minute ago. We humans tend to look at people and we really don't take the time to stop and think that they may know this or may know that. We always go by first appearance. And that's sad. Sad that we always do that. If you were to look at Warren, the way he was dressed that day that I met him, that's his house, and I wish it was a much bigger picture, but as you can see the concrete wall, that was his house. The whole house was like that. Windows barely there. The door was metal. It wasn't like here that we close the door and it's private. It was just a metal gate. That's his house, right next to the church where I preached. However, this gentleman right here knew Spanish, English, French, and Creole. Right? Who knew? But if you were to look at him, that's not what comes to your mind. Awesome gentleman. Became very good friends with Eddie. A very godly man. Travels to Panama City every day to take care of an elderly couple. Every day. Aside from driving taxis during the day, and is very involved with the church. It's probably a lot more than we can say for some people here in the States. We started taking a tour of all the other sites. The very first site that we went to visit was Puerto Gamito. It's in a port. It was a port town, fishing town. Once we got there, they warned us, hey, it's a fisherman's area, so just, keep in mind, it may smell a little bit, and sure enough, it did. We got there to visit where that first site was going to be. I told you, it's open, it's in a gym area. And the very first thing we saw was a bunch of little kids playing. Now, I don't know if you can tell very well from the picture, but that kid that's kneeling down, bending down, there is a white PVC pipe coming out of the ground, and he's drinking water out of there. They all take breaks, and that's where they go get their water on their break, out of a PVC pipe coming out of the ground. No faucet, no sink, no water bottles, none of that, but a PVC pipe coming out of the ground. So we got there. We looked around. This is where, Daniel, the other gentleman, was going to preach. And the kids were playing. So we said, hey, can we play with you guys? He said, come on. We ended up having an improv soccer game with all those little kids. They killed us. They killed us. And here, I'm thinking, and Eddie was thinking, he's like, I got this, Dad. He's like, they're all little. No. They ran circles around us. They ran circles around us without shoes. Because some of them were at practice without shoes because they didn't have them. Because the only pair of shoes they have are the ones they wear to school. So they can't wear those to go to practice. They got to save those for school. But here they are, practicing their soccer, barefoot or with socks. and they still took us to school, and we lost very badly to them. But they were so excited to see us there. So it was a perfect opportunity for us to be able to make some new friends and to invite them to the evening meetings we were having, and to invite them to the clinic we were going to be holding. Because this is not just one of the sites that was going to be having the series at night, but the school was allowing us to run one of our clinic days at the school for the children. So that was very amazing. And as you can see here, we took pictures with all of them. That's actually all of our group, or most of our group, with the kids. The gentleman with the white shirt, he was our driver. Lorenzo, you're going to find another picture from down the road. Very, very colorful guy. Dresses funny and everything. But this guy, he works at the airport doing tours. He's got a minivan. So when you get there and you bring a large group, you can book a minivan to take you around town or just take you wherever you need to go. That's his job. He gave up the 10 days worth of working as his way to help the church and help us. Everybody does something. Everybody does something for the Lord. For Lorenzo, it was giving up 10 days worth of work to volunteer him, his time, and his minivan to take us around everywhere we needed to go. And of course, you know me, I like being with the kids, but it was fun. It was really nice. They were awesome, awesome kids. And they too, remembered us the very next day that we went to have the clinic at the school. They were all excited. Hey, do you remember we beat you? Yeah, we remember. This was the other site, Valle de las Rosas. That was also the church that was under construction. So half of our team during the day worked at the clinic, and the other half did construction. Eddie and I, well, I shouldn't say Eddie. I'm more of an indoor person, so I signed up for the clinic. But Eddie wanted to try construction. So one of the days he actually did switch with somebody, and he went to work construction, and they came to work at the clinic. But at the end of our 10 days there, we were able to lay down all the flooring, because it's probably hard to see, but it was still dirt, and they were laying out concrete floors. There's no windows, there's no doors at that site. Getting to that site, though, it was very, very steep hill. As you can see, it's not the greatest of areas, but you know what? We need to take the message everywhere. We don't need to take the message just to the city or just where the rich folks are or just, no. If we're going to share the message, we need to go everywhere. And sometimes it's these places that need it the most. So getting there wasn't the easiest even for the driver because it was up in the mountain. Once we got there, as you can see, this is the house right next to the church that's being built. What you cannot see is, on that picture, on that side is a greenhouse. Beautiful house. For the area there, this is one of the most nicer houses built there. The lady that lived there is a very much non-believer. However, at some point, a Adventist pastor helped her with something. Slowly and surely, she's coming around. Slowly and surely, she's coming around. Now, being the only nice big house in the area, she's about the only one that has a parking space. So, the only person allowed to park in her parking is the Adventist pastor that comes to visit her or the ones that come to the church. And she makes sure that everybody knows that because she goes out there with bricks and puts them in the driveway and nobody's allowed to park there. Unless the pastor is coming, in which she herself comes out, moves the bricks so that he can park his car there. It's amazing. Construction, like I said, I know Eddie was the one that spent most of the time, or at least that one day, the whole day, doing that. And it was, for him, it was amazing. He's never done that kind of work a day in his life. ever. So I know that's part of why he wanted to experience that. And I'm glad he did, because when he came back, he was like, wow. He's like, I don't ever want to do it again. He's like, I want to make sure I go to college. So I think it helped in more ways than one, you know? So as you can see, we're laying down foundations, laying down flooring. Still no windows, no doors. The roofs, all the roofs are all metal, which for me, that's different, because even in Ecuador, unless you really go out into the mountains, it's not like that. On the downstairs area of where you just saw the church is where they are making rooms for the children's ministry of the church. All of the rooms are divided. So about the size of this church, they made into 4 rooms. And that's the children's ministry rooms they're building on the downstairs. I thought this was amazing. I don't know. I know it's just a bathroom. But for me, I was like, this is the bathroom for the church. They're like, oh, yeah, we just built it. It's literally a hole in the ground, concrete, and a seat. So I'm like, you guys aren't going to flush? They're like, no, that's just how it is. I was like, okay, click. Because I've never seen that. I was like, I got to make sure, I got to remember that. All right, so heading back and out of our little town, and this is very similar to even Ecuador and many other places I've been, especially when you go to Latin America type countries, you're going to see a lot of vendors out in the streets setting up fruits, veggies, all kinds of stuff like that. And as you can see, this is our way in and out of La Chorrera, like it says in the building, where our hotel was. One picture I don't have here, which I thought was hilarious, and I looked at the guy from the van we were in, and we're at a stoplight, and Lorenzo's driving, and he's like, yep, I guess he doesn't realize it's super hot today. And I'm like, what does he have in his hand? The guy is holding 5 shrimp in his hand from the whiskers of the shrimp, in the middle of the street, just walking around selling shrimp. I'm like, doesn't that need to be refrigerated? He's like, yeah, not here. They'll be okay. They'll cook it. I'm like, wow, okay. But it's like that. In the whole place, just about everything you want, it's sold down the street, in the middle of the street. And they stop, go purchase it, get back in the car, and keep going. So you better be patient when you're driving in traffic like this. Like I said, in traffic like this, somebody's there, they literally, the car, you can see the lights, go to park, they get out, make the purchase, get back in the car, and keep going. So that was, again, to me, that was new, because you just don't do that. All right, so going back to Puerto Caimito, our first site where we played soccer with the kids, that was the school. Not an Adventist school, but that was a school in that local area. So we were there. This was the very first day of the clinic. The picture on the right is the indigenous people of that area. And they actually are not allowed to be photographed. So, no, I did ask permission. And I asked the lady, can I take a picture? Because they had told me, no, you cannot take their pictures. I was like, oh, but I like the dresses. They look so pretty. And they're like, well, you can ask her. And if she says yes, I did ask permission. And she said yes. So both mom and daughter got checked. And both mom and daughter got glasses. At the end of the day, this is the group that was there with the exception of Eddie. The lady in the middle in the red shirt is the principal of the school, and she was so excited we were able to come and help all those kids at the school. As we were at that school, it's where probably the very first thing that happened to me. I know some of you have probably experienced before that. One, you're either doing something that you didn't expect you'd be doing, or you're somewhere you didn't expect you'd be. Next thing you know, you're having an experience you didn't expect you were going to be having, but yet there you are. Well, that's exactly what happened. At that school, late into the evening, we were almost done. A gentleman came, got his vision checked. We gave him his glasses. But he looked very, very sad. And throughout the day, myself and Leticia, the lady with the red skirt, she's from Mexico, also flew there for this. We both made it a point that as we give out our glasses and we help them out, that we were going to ask everybody, is there anything that I can pray for you? So we were doing that all day. And people had requests, and we did, and we prayed. But this one guy, out of probably 100 people we saw that day, this one guy, not only did he have a request, but he broke down in tears. I mean, they all had requests all day long. But there was something different. So I asked him, what can I pray for? Is there anything I can pray for? So he went on to explain to me that, yes, you can pray for my family. You can pray for my wife. My wife needs glasses too, but she couldn't be here because she's in a lot of pain. I said, well, what's going on? He went on and elaborated medical conditions and everything that's going on with the wife. So, I gave the guy a hug and I prayed with him. And he goes, I wish she could come. She lives around the corner behind the school. So I said, well, maybe I can go with you if you live behind the school. Granted, they had told us, don't be going anywhere unless you're accompanied by somebody, because they don't really want us wandering off on our own. I asked the principal, I asked my whole team that was there, and it ended up being a decision of all of us that they were okay with me going. I took a phone with me, and I followed the guy out of the school to the streets, down to the corner, around the side of the school, to his house. I took the measuring, the little machine to measure his sight, and I took one pair of glasses in every measurement, only one, because I was going to see only his wife. So we got there, and as we're going around to the back end of the school, go through you know what the houses looked like earlier in the other picture, going up to the church, the house right next to the church? Okay, all the houses look like that. And that's where we're walking through to get to his house. So we get to his front door, and again, it's just a concrete wall. So I asked him, is this your house? He says, yes, can you wait here? Let me go inside. I said, okay. Comes back and says, come on, come on. So I step into the house. There's no electricity. It was dark. It was a concrete building. I walk in, and all you see is an empty room. 3 cinder blocks standing up where 3 little girls were sitting down. That was their chairs. Cinder blocks. A bed sheet hanging. And he says, come on. So I walked in, and I'm looking around. And I walked in to what would be the living room. Off to my right, we walked to, and that would be the kitchen. So he says, can you wait here? I'm going to go tell my wife. Because there's a little hallway off to the side. There's a room. There's no door. There's a curtain or another bed sheet as a door. But as I'm waiting, I'm looking around. And, I complain to my wife that in our kitchen, we need more room. I complain to her that I would love to have an island so that I can do more things. But I'm standing in his kitchen, where it's probably as big as this, with nothing in there but a concrete slab for a counter, a hole for a sink. They don't have a stove. It's a propane tank with 2 burners, small one that you would take camping, at least we would over here. Their sink is our water that we have out there, our big gallons that we put upside down. That's what they have on top of that counter with a pump. That's their water. Their sink has a PVC pipe just hanging down about that long that empties into a bucket. That's their plumbing. That's how they live. So he comes out and says, come on. I walk into the room, he opens the curtain, and there's their bedroom. Now, here I was telling my wife months ago, I need more space for my socks. So we need more furniture. I walk into a room that has cinder blocks for a bed. Cinder blocks with a board that thick on top and a mattress that thick on top. That was their bed. Their nightstand was, you guessed it, more cinder blocks with another cardboard on top. That was their nightstand. So again, I'm going there to help them, but now I see this. All of a sudden, all of that is hitting me here. It's just the start of all this unexpected things that I didn't know I was going to come back here with. So I went in, spoke with his wife. She shared a lot of her medical conditions with me, which part she shared that pain that she feels is things crawling in her body that the doctors cannot figure out what it is. They've gone to doctors in Panama City. They're going to doctors now in the town of La Chorrera, and nobody can figure out what it is. She, please with me, can you help me? I'm not a doctor. I'm there to do a small vision test. But what I can do for you is pray. So that's what I offered, a prayer. I prayed with her, her husband, her daughter, and her grandkids. We all prayed together. I checked her vision, gave her a pair of glasses. Remember, I took one of every measurement, only one. So I asked her daughter that was there, hey, you want to get checked? She says, yes. Lo and behold, it was a different prescription, and I had a pair of glasses for her too. So it worked out. You know, we talked for a while. Then it was time for me to go because the phone's going off. My team's wondering what happened to Eddie. Is he coming back? So the guy said, do you remember how to get back? I said, yes. You know, clearly you need to stay here with your family. You don't have to walk me. I can go around. So off I went. It was just around the school. But as I was heading out, something interesting happened. That second thing that struck me, that second thing that God sent down and hit Eddie right in the back of the head. I'm walking out. I'm walking back up to the street to go to the front door of the school. And as I'm walking around, there was a guy selling fruits, vegetables, and clams. Because this is in that fisherman town. So he's got clams, a table full of clams, fruits and veggies. I'm just walking back to the school, and the guy's, hey, doctor. I keep going because I'm not a doctor. So I kept walking till finally, you know, the back of my shirt, I'm like, hi. You know, he's like, hey, are you guys checking vision? I said, yeah. He's like, well, can you check mine? I said, okay. I said, do you wear glasses? Yeah. I said, are they prescription or are they reading glasses? You know, they're reading glasses. I said, perfect, then I can help you because that's what we have. I said, if you need the other ones, then you do need to go to a doctor, which I'm not, but I can help you with this. I said, do you have them with you? So I can try and check the measurement on it, get a little idea of what he may need. He says, here. Takes out a pair of glasses. They were broken, scratched. Those of us that wear glasses know that the minute we get a scratch, one scratch, we're already complaining because it hinders you. I could barely see out of the lenses he had. They were put together with tape and wire. That's what he had for glasses. So I said, okay, let me look at him. I looked at him, got an idea of what he needed. I said, okay. I said, come on. So I checked his vision. We checked, I got the machine out. We checked. I said, okay. I didn't have the little paper we had for him to read. So I said, do you have anything you can read? Because I said, I need to make sure you can see well with the ones I just gave you. He says, yes, hold on. Comes over here, lifts up a board, pulls out a Bible. Right? I just got a new Bible. Thank you to my wife. She got me a new Bible, and I was able to get, went to the ABC, and I got my little tabs so that I can quickly go to my books. And here I am enjoying this brand new Bible back home. His Bible was torn and taped together. But that's what he had. He opens his Bible, starts reading. The gentleman started crying. He says, I haven't been able to read my Bible in over 6 months because I couldn't see out of my glasses. I was like, those little things is just bam. So again, I asked the guy, I said, is there anything I can pray for? Can I pray with you? He says, yes. So he shared a few more things with me. He wanted me to pray for his family, his job, selling fruits and veggies and clams. And so we prayed. So, he came up to me and I just felt compelled. I put my arms around him and we started praying. Again, you guys know me here. Most of the time I'm a quiet guy. I don't think I've ever pulled anybody over to say, let's pray. Not here, needless to say, anywhere else outside of the U.S., but here I am in the middle of Panama, and I asked this guy in the middle of the street, okay, let's pray. So I put my arms around him and we started praying. I don't know what happened, but in the middle of us praying, I felt a wind. So I opened up my eyes. When we started praying, we started off in the sidewalk. But when I opened my eyes, we were in the middle of the street and cars were going by us. I know I've been back over a month, maybe 2 months, and I still can't figure that out. But I know somebody has a doing in all this. Not me. That was one of those things again. In the back of Eddie's head. Imprinted, because I know I'm just never going to forget that, Made it back to my team. They were all happy. Nothing happened to Eddie. He's here. We can go eat and go back to the hotel. So, again, those little things help us to think of what we have or don't have, but we think we need when it's not a necessity. Now, preaching for 10 days for me, well, when you let go, God takes over. And that was something my wife kept telling me, and many of my friends kept telling me, and many of you guys kept telling me. Let him take care of it. If he called you to do this, he's going to help you through it. Sometimes we have to let go. And how hard is that? How hard is that? Because for the most part, we always want to be in control. If we're doing something, I want to do it my way. If I'm doing that, I want to know how to do it. I want to do it this way, and I'm in control. I know how it's going to go. But in reality, it's when we let go and give it to him that he takes over and makes things work out the way they're supposed to. This was my first night preaching there. And the people were very, very nice about it because I was very, very nervous, and they could tell. But it led to a lot of me talking, which I can clearly do a lot of. Before I left, one of our church members, a good friend of mine, gave me this passage. He wrote it down on a piece of paper, and when we met before I left, he said, "Here, take this. This has helped me in my job when I have to speak to people." He's like, I have to have a meeting at least twice a week, and even though I've been doing this for many, many years, I still get nervous. But this is where I go to before I get up and have my meetings. So he wrote that down on a piece of paper, wrote that and gave it to me. I put it in my wallet, and I took it with me, and every morning before we left on whatever we were going to do for the day, I went over this. And I got to say that for me, it really, really helped to keep me Okay, so we did have some fun days, not just working days. We got to visit the Panama Canal, and we went up a mountain, which is Cerro Ancon. Now, Panama Canal for me was awesome, and all right, so we got there. There's a lot of history behind it. I know Pastor Ron and I have been talking about it, and it's just one of those things that's just amazing to see. If you're there in person, it's just amazing to see. And then you hear the history behind it. Now, let me go back this page, and it's hard to see, but on that building, right above it, is a boat, a huge ship, container ship. Okay, where that building is, you can see there's the locks. That's the original canal. Since then, they have built another one that is much wider and much, much deeper, because they realized they were losing a lot of money not being able to let huge freighters go by. So when the canal got handed over to the people of Panama, is that they decided to begin construction in a second crossing for the bigger ships. So now you can go there and actually visit both in one place. You can stand there and see the original canal, and right behind it, which is a little uneven, and you can see them both, is the new canal for the much, much bigger ships. And we were fortunate enough that when we were there, one ship was actually coming in, and you get to see the whole process. And again, for me, that was amazing. But you bring a 16-year-old to see that, and he looked at the boats and said, "Oh, cool, Dad. All right, there's boats. Now what are we going to do?" So, but he did enjoy seeing the boats, and there he is. This is the whole group. Once we went from the Panama Canal to that mountain. Now, I'm from Ecuador. We had people from Colombia, Mexico, Argentina, France, Jamaica, and some from here in the U.S. For me, I thought that was amazing. Some of us didn't know English. Some of the people that came, Daniel and his son from Argentina, they didn't know any English. They just knew Spanish. One of the ladies from Jamaica, her English was very, very questionable. But again, we were able to all come together for one reason only: to help and to do God's work. For me, now that I've had that experience, I just find that so amazing. Because really, do we ever stop and think about that? I know I didn't. Now I do. But when something like this happens, it's just amazing that God makes things work in a certain way to bring people from many different places for one purpose. This was up in the mountain. And of course, Eddie gets all excited. We had wonderful views of the city of Panama from up in the mountain. Every now and then you find some clearing. You can see all the buildings in the background. It was just very, very pretty. Once we made it up there, on our way up there, what we over here consider, you can go to a florist. If you go to the specific ones and you can buy the very, very expensive, tropical bouquets, you will find beautiful flowers such as this, and will cost you a couple $100. But over there, they grow everywhere. And of course, there's little critters everywhere, which Eddie had a little buddy on a stick all the way up the mountain. There was areas going up that they had a path. It's not that they didn't have a path, because we had people with us that were in their 70s, 80s. So they did have a path, but a lot of us younger people, they said, "Hey, look, you can go up that mountain right there, and there's rocks." We said, "Sure." So it was fun, and some of us got hurt. It wasn't me. And there's Eddie again, looking all spiffy. So our clinic. We held a clinic at every site. The one place we had the clinic that wasn't a site was our very last day. And I'll get to some pictures of that, because same thing, something amazing happened that day. As we got to every site, a lot of the people there, they came not just from the town where the church is, but from other areas. They heard there's going to be a clinic. We were doing eye exams. We were doing blood work, checking sugar. We were checking blood pressure. We were doing many different things. This was at the site that I was. This was at Bethel. Full room. We were there from 9 in the morning. We didn't leave there till about 3 in the afternoon. And it was full all the way through all day. Every time we had a clinic, it was packed. Eddie mainly took care of doing the vision exam. They worked with him to show him how it works, how the machine works. This is how you check, and a good procedure on how to do that. So I'm very excited he learned that part. So he really took well to that. And it gave him a really good opportunity to be able to practice his Spanish, not just with the adults, but with the little kids. You know, some of you guys that know my son, he's looking forward, God willing, to become a doctor one day. And if the Lord continues to bless him as he's been, and Eddie keeps his head on straight, he will be a doctor one day, and he wants to work with children. So pediatric Dr. Salazar in the making, I think that this helped him to be able to work with kids, not just during the clinic time, but when he was doing the children's ministry. At my site, Mari, the lady there, she is one of the prayer warriors from my site. She's an awesome lady. I mean, we headed off. She prayed for me every day. Her and the other two ladies that we will see later, and it was just amazing, amazing experience. She invited Eddie and I over for dinner. So that was a kind of, I didn't know we could do that. Can we do that? So I had to tell her, thank you so much. I appreciate it. But, you know, we're on a tight schedule, and I really need to ask if I can come. Because the lady who was in charge of our group said, look, you guys can't do that. You can't just go off to people's houses. We need to make sure we know who they are. So once Pastor Luis found out who they were, he was like, oh, no, it's okay. You can go to that house. So we went. She invited us for dinner, and it was awesome going to her house. That back there is her house. Again, metal roof. No insulation, none of that. Just literally a metal roof. So in the middle of eating dinner, having a nice conversation, you hear a loud boom. Eddie and I just dropped our forks. I think Eddie stood up. I was like, what in the world's going on? And they're like, just keep on eating. I was like, what happened? They're like, oh, that was a mango. It fell off the tree. So I'm like, that happens all the time? She's like, yeah, it happens all the time. I'm like, that happens at night when you're sleeping? She's like, oh, yeah, it happens all the time. I was like, oh, man. At night when I sleep, I got to have my fan on. I make sure it's dark, you know. But at night, you may get a mango waking you up, all right? So, but no, they were phenomenal. Now, here's the thing. We're all different. We're all here at our church to learn the word of Christ. We're all here to not just learn that word, but to take that word out there and share it. Yes? Okay. Now, I believe that we're all different. Yes? We can't all be the same. One, it'd be boring. And two, our Father didn't make us all the same. Some of us are vegetarian. Some of us are not. The majority of the people down there, even though they're Adventist, even though they're Christian, most of them are not vegetarian. They do not eat pork. They do not eat shrimp. But they do eat chicken. Some eat beef. And a lot of them eat a lot of fish. The group itself that we were with and the organization we were with, being a 7-day Adventist organization, is all vegetarian. Our meals prepared were all vegetarian, which is absolutely fine. I'm not vegetarian, but it's okay. We knew that ahead of time coming into this, so we're fine. Somehow word got out that there's 2 non-vegetarian people in the group, Eddie and I, and word got out to Mari that invited us for dinner. And when we got there, she made us a stewed chicken with rice and black beans and some plantains and some fresh guayaba juice, which was amazing, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. We sat down, we ate, and I'm like, wait a minute. In your backyard, there's full of chickens. Where'd you get the chicken? And she told me, she's like, oh, it was one of our chickens. I made that for you guys. Now, here's the thing. Many people, including Mari and her family, depend on those chickens. That mango that fell, everybody has mangoes in their backyard. Everybody. Mangoes, pineapples. But even though they all have this, they still get it, and just about everybody sells them out on the streets. If you have chickens, many chickens, you take those eggs and you sell them. So here she is, taking one of her chickens that produces eggs, that produce the money for her household, yet she decided to go ahead and make that for dinner for Eddie and I. How can we not be grateful and appreciative that they're willing to do that? Granted, I didn't tell Eddie, because if he knew before we sat down to eat that was their pet, he wouldn't have been so happy to eat dinner. So I waited till way after dinner to let him know what had happened, because I wanted him to know and understand what they are willing to do. They don't have much, but what they have, they're willing to share. And that's, again, part of those things, and one of those things I wanted him and needed him to understand. Definitely not before dinner, but after. Children's ministry, every site had one. This was at our site. When we started, we didn't really have a lot of kids. By the end of it, we did have a good amount of kids. Eddie got to meet a lot of them, worked with a lot of them, sat down, had conversations with just about every kid at that site. The little kid right next to Eddie ended up getting baptized at the end of our series. So as you can see, slowly and surely it grew. The numbers grew. That was the 3 people at my site: Eddie, Adasa, and Bernie. I was lucky to have 3 of them, because most sites only had the speaker and 1 person to work with children's ministry, because our group ended up being so small. But at my site, because it was the biggest church, remember, I was able to have the 3 of them. And it worked very, very well. They did everything, kind of like what we do here through BBS and all that. They worked with our felts. They had different stories. They had coloring books. I know that I took some candy from here. I took stickers. I took little bottles of bubbles to hand out if they remember their memory verses and stuff like that. So it was amazing to be able to work with them, and I think Eddie got a lot out of that. I said the experience is not just, getting what did we give to them, but what did we get out of it? And he got a lot out of working with those kids. Before I go to this, remember Warren, right? My interpreter? Okay. I preached 10 days in English. Everything happened for a reason. Me telling them I can't do it in Spanish happened for a reason. Them finding me an interpreter that knew French and Creole happened for a reason. Those 10 days proved to me that God has a plan. He has a path. He is the one working everything out. We're just there to do that job if we are willing. If we say yes after you open your mouth and say, oh yeah, I can do that. If you do that job, if you accept it. Me getting there and telling them I cannot do this in Spanish, even though, yes, I speak Spanish, served the purpose of the fact that at that church, across the street from the church, lived a lady that knew no Spanish, spoke English and French Creole. Lived there for 3 years. In those 3 years, she has never set foot in that church because it was always everything in Spanish. However, out of nowhere, there's this guy preaching in English. So she decides to come over across the street and into the church and sits down. Just like that. 3 years she's lived there. And it took God saying, you know what, Eddie, you're going to head down there. and you're going to preach in English. For her to walk across the street, come and sit down, and actually get the message from Christ. That same lady, one day, one particular night, Warren couldn't be there. He was very sick. So I had no choice but to preach in Spanish. Just so happened that was the one day that she was not there. Who has the doing in this? One of the nights in the series, part of what we were talking about was about how we tend to falter. We fall down all the time, but sometimes we think about, we did this thing wrong or bad, so let me do two good things and maybe it'll offset the bad. Come on, we all do that. We all think like that sometimes. It happens. We're only human, right? Well, what we were talking about that night was that. I took a pause, I took a minute, and I said, look, considering the fact that the 3 days before, on Saturday, I had done, the sermon, but it was my testimony of my life to them. And I shared a lot with them of the faults in my life and things that have happened to me. So I took the time and I said, you know what, let's take a minute from what we're doing here. And as much as I shared with you guys on Saturday, is there anybody willing to stand up and share with the church what might have been some of the things that you faltered at? Now, it wasn't until after all that was said and done that the pastor or the elder from the church that was in charge of us came and told me something that I'll share with you in a minute. But the very first person that raised their hand and came up front and grabbed the microphone from my hand was that lady. Luckily, Warren was there to be able to translate in French Creole and shared her troubles. Moved from Jamaica 4 years prior because her neighbor was trying to kill her through witchcraft and voodoo and all these practices that they have in Jamaica. She says that she still feels that is after her. She's like, I read my Bible, but when I sit down to read my Bible, I can feel it in my body that he's trying to get me. She hasn't shared that with anybody. Not in 3 years. 3 years she hasn't been in that church. Not once. But that night she decided to stand up, come up front, and share. It led to Warren translating for her into Spanish from French Creole, to me saying, does anybody else want to say something? And yet another lady raising her hand, coming up real quick, taking the microphone, and helping the lady that just came up. Now, she knew no French Creole. She knew Spanish. So now I have Warren translating Spanish, English, French Creole, all to help one person. One person that has not been in the church in 3 years because nobody spoke English, not once. But yet, out of nowhere, my wife signs me up and there I am preaching in English, and she is able to come into the church and share and receive the Word of God. That was amazing. Other people got up, other people shared. And I think at that point I stopped what I was doing and we just continued on sharing because it really lifted up everybody there that evening. It wasn't, again, remember till afterwards, the elder that was in charge of driving us to the hotel, that he comes up to me and goes, are you sure you've never preached before? No, not once. He goes, do you know what you just did? He goes, in the history of this church, nobody has ever asked anybody to share anything. And the one time you did it, they came up. I'm not going to lie. I was like, oh, thank you. You know? But shouldn't we be able to share with one another? My experience can help somebody. Your experience can help somebody. We need to be able to open up to each other. Not just as one person to another, but as one friend to another, one brother to another, one sister to another. Because if we don't do that, how can I know that maybe you're going through something, or you're going through something, or that I'm going through something? But if we can open up our hearts and give it to you guys and share, you guys can also be willing to help each other. That's what that night did for me. It helped me share, not just what I talked to them on Saturday, but to share in the pains and sorrows and the falters that they had, that they were willing to share with me. You know? So we prayed about it. And that to me was just amazing, again, because one of those 10 days, again, things that I've never done before. Construction site ended up being one of our clinic sites as well. Now, when we got there, as you can see now, there's windows. Now there's a door that was not there before when we had first gotten there. By the time we got there, there was windows, there was a door, and there was a floor. By the time we were able to go and do the clinic. Now, the most amazing thing for me is, as you can see, there's more of the indigenous people there. And yes, I asked for permission because I didn't want to get in trouble. And there's Dr. Salazar taking a break. But the indigenous people. Now, this particular site, when we got there at 9 o'clock, the church was already full of people waiting. There was a line outside of the church of people waiting, and all of them were indigenous people. Now, here's the kicker. They were all female. Not one guy in sight. Not one. So I'm not going to lie, I got curious. And I was talking to the pastor there and the people, and I said, look, I said, it's all females. And they're like, oh, yeah. And they shared something interesting. They said, you know, this church, we're getting a building now, but as we've continued and furthered, bringing people to Christ in this area, they're all the indigenous people. Now, in their culture, the female, the mom, the woman, the wife, is the one in charge of not just the well-being of the family at home, but the spiritual well-being of the family. Not the guy, not the male. That is why this particular church, all are females. There's only 4 guys. The pastor and the 3 elders. Everybody else at that church is all females. They're all indigenous population from around the area. I said, well, where is all the guys? Oh, when you go down the mountain, they hang out at the bars. That's where all the guys are. They hang out at the bars, and the wives are the ones that take care of the spiritual aspect of the family. They're the ones that go to church. So to me, I thought that was just very interesting. I mean, it's not something you normally hear of. But again, at that particular site, we saw about 130 people that day. Give out a bunch of glasses. Did a lot of checking as well. And you can see there was a lot of kids. Every time we went anywhere, there's a lot of kids. Now, we did get another relaxing day, and they said, hey, we don't have a clinic set up for today, but we have sites in the afternoon. What do we want to do? So we said, let's go to the beach. And they said, sure, why not? So off we went to the beach. I thought it was amazing because you go to the beach here and the sand is nice and white, but you get over there and the sand is black. It's hard to tell because you still kind of see white spots on it, but on the bottom corner one where it's Eddie and I, it is black. Black as black can be. I picked some up and it was like Play-Doh, like black Play-Doh. But that's the beach over there. It's all black. So we were fortunate enough to kind of have a little bit of extra time and take off to the beach for a few hours and experience that as well. Our last day there for the clinic, remember I told you, it wasn't just the sites. This particular last day, the site we were going to ended up having some issues. So they said, no, you can't come. And we were already pretty much planned to go somewhere. They said, no, you can't. So here we are the day before trying to figure out, what are we going to do tomorrow? We can't go to that site. People were waiting. Now what? A lady said, you can come to my house. So back we went to Puerto Caimito, to the town, the fisherman town. And this is in the lady's front porch. That's where we set up shop. She was willing to say, come to my house. I don't care how many people show up. My doors are open to you guys. Again, people that don't have much, that are willing to do something to help in what the Lord needs us to do. That green wall over there, that's the front entrance. That's her front door to her house. That is a front patio kind of area with an overhang with, again, metal roof. And that's where we set up shop. So about 100 and some people that day. And being that it was our last day, we had people coming from everywhere because the word got out. That's the last day. So it was packed all day. All day. The lady down in that picture with the blue shirt, she was one of our Bible workers that had been there prior, doing a lot of God's work, getting things ready for us to come. And she actually is from Colombia, went there specifically to do that, and then went back to Colombia. They were showing up in buses, literally buses were pulling up, stopping in front of where we were working. 10 more, 15 more, 20 more people get off the bus, come over and hang out. We'd be like, 10 more, all right, keep going. Next thing you know, another bus, door goes up, another 10, 20, 30 people come out. All day, buses and buses and buses of people. But it was amazing, amazing. Now, Mari, in the back, she's the one that had us over at her house for dinner. The other ladies. Now, I know you guys have prayed for us. And I know that when I have my friends and people I know and something's wrong, and I'll tell them, I'll pray for you. And we do, But for me, it was something new. They said, no, every time we have a speaker or before service, we pray over whoever's preaching. I said, okay, that's new to me. Sure. So the three ladies every night found a different Bible text, and they read it to me, incorporating my name into the text that they were reading. So I thought that was amazing. It made me feel welcomed. It did really, and honestly, it did something for me, because one of those nights I just couldn't stop sobbing like a little kid when they read what they read to me. It hits you a different way. And then all three of them put their hands on me and started praying. So again, it's not just praying for me, but literally praying over you. And that was totally a new feeling for me and something I have not experienced before. But they do that every night for whoever's speaking there. Now, I'm not going to lie. The other two people that were speaking at the other two sites, they had been on previous mission trips. This was, I think, for Daniel, mission trip number 5. And for Leticia, I think it was number 4. So they've done this before. They've preached before. They sort of knew what is coming, what they're doing, what's going on. They had a lot of people get baptized at their sites. So I couldn't be happier. That's what we were there for. Now, here we are at my site. And I didn't really have that the people weren't really there, for getting baptized. Even though one of those evenings, the program at night was about baptism and giving your life to Christ. Well, lo and behold, that Ilya and her son Ricardo, remember that little kid that Eddie was talking to in one of the pictures? It's mother and son. When I got up one of those evenings and talked about baptism, and I asked and made a call to worship about baptism, and remember you talked to me about this, who gets up and says, I want to give my life to Christ and my son? Her. So at that point I was like, oh, thank you. At least I have one. Because, Daniel was like getting 6 people baptized, and, Letty was getting like 7 people baptized, and I'm like, I don't have anybody. But it took me a minute to really, stop and think. Even if nobody gets baptized, I'm there to plant a seed. But sometimes it's hard for us to realize that. And honestly, here I am with 2 other people that are preaching, and they're getting people to get baptized. What is it that I'm not doing? Or what am I doing wrong that it's just not working? But here it was. Now, She came up to me after she came up that evening and shared that she wanted to get baptized and shared something interesting with me. Now, I haven't had the opportunity or the chance to share with you guys my life story, my testimony, but I come from a background like some of you guys, grew up Catholic, came into being a Christian and being a Seventh-day Adventist because of my wife. It's not easy. Still not easy because we live at home with my mom and she's not Adventist, and sometimes, there's conflicts and misunderstandings. Well, for Elia, it was the same. Grew up Catholic, went to Catholic school, the whole nine, just like me. It wasn't until that first Sabbath that I shared my testimony with them, and she happened to be there that night, that morning, that she realized that a lot of the questions that she had are the same questions I had. Not just about what am I going to do with my life, but what is it that I'm doing with my life as a Catholic person? What is it that me as a Catholic, all these things that I don't necessarily agree with? Those are the same things and questions I had. Same questions she had. But you know what? Me sharing that morning with them, all of that helped her to see that she's not the only one that was feeling that way. It goes back to sharing with people. Sharing all of that with that congregation probably didn't reach a lot of people, but it reached one, and it made an impact on her life, on the questions she had. And it helped her make that decision. And she told me herself, that is what helps me make the decision right now to get baptized, is what you shared, what you felt, because that's exactly what I've been feeling. And my son is going to get baptized too. And now I know the reason why I never got him baptized in the Catholic Church. So at that point, I was just overjoyed. I think I even cried that night. So this is her getting baptized on the bottom left over here. And as you can see, she is very, very excited because now her son was getting baptized over there. And that was just amazing. Now, they got baptized while I was there. Now, remember that other lady that shared with us that lived across the church? She also decided to go ahead and get baptized. But they were going to work with her a little bit more. And she was going to get baptized a week or two after I left. There's Lorenzo, our driver. I told you, he's a very colorful guy. Every day he came out wearing something different, but he's just such a happy guy. You couldn't do anything wrong that he just didn't find the nicest thing about it or something good to say about it. Or he was like, his main goal was just to try and get you to laugh about something. And that was just nice because we had so much going on that it really helped to have somebody like that with us. And I just thought it was so amazing for him, like I said, to give up working and making his money so that he can too help the Lord in what we need to do and give 10 days of his work to help us get around. Our last night, we checked out of the hotel in La Chorrera and head towards Panama City so that we can all get our flights the following morning because we're all getting up super, super early, so we slept in Panama City. So heading into Panama City, at this point, we can actually see the city and enjoy the city. I thought it was amazing, and I know we just had a conversation of how different it is. But as you get over there, you see there's huge buildings. Now, we're used to the buildings here that are not just huge, but that are just big. Over there, they're not big. They're very thin, but they're super tall. Super, super tall. So getting over there was just amazing. A very big city. Again, we didn't really think about that because where we were in the small town, that's what you're involved with, that's where you're at. But once you head over there, you can really get immersed with the fact that you are in a big, big, big city. So, taking the time to do God's work. Taking the time. I never thought about it, not once. And I wouldn't have, honestly, probably taken the time to do that if it wouldn't have been for my wife signing me up. And I can't thank her enough. because it gave me so many things. As you can see here, that it wasn't just prayers and contributions. And I know that the number is probably bigger than 620 that we helped at the clinics. But from what I can remember and going through my papers and one, it's somewhere around there. Spending that time with my son, priceless. There's nothing I can do, nothing I can pay or give to get that kind of involvement like those 10 days that I got with my son. But most of all, finding something in me. Preaching, I've never done, you guys know that. But finding that courage. But the only way I can find that courage is by doing what? Giving myself to the Lord and accepting the fact that He is in control. That was the only way. But the only way I was going to learn that is by going down there. That's what this did for me. I know we did a lot for the people in Panama, but I just want to say thank you, all of you guys that prayed for us and had a lot of doing in us getting down there. Because really, it did a lot, not just for the people we helped, but it did a lot for me and Eddie. So I just want to say thank you guys for everything and all the prayers that you had for us. Thank you.
Eddie, for sharing such an amazing trip.
I know.
That's amazing. Well, it's fantastic. We've had a rich and full Sabbath. Amen. So let's pray to Him, shall we? Father, we pause for a moment. We just thank you for the experience that we've heard about tonight. And we pray for those people, especially in Panama. And Eddie was instrumental, and his son were instrumental in reaching many of the people there. And we just pray that their hearts and souls and minds would be drawn to you, and that their work would not be in vain. So we thank you for opening doors of opportunity, and we pray that more doors will be open, that each one of us will be willing to step through. Be with us in this coming week, and may all that we do, think, and say will be in harmony with you.